everybody, and welcome back to Weather for Weather Geeks here on this Thursday evening, the 8th day of April 2021. Another day, another record. Yesterday we tied a record high. Today we established a brand new record. Let's look at the numbers. 83 officially at the airport today at 2:35 p.m. The old record set 20 years ago, 81. So that's pretty impressive stuff for April the 8th. We've gotten warmer in early April, of course, but not all that often. This is pretty lofty territory for this time of the year. There was not a lake breeze today, so look at Erie. You've heard me mention a few times when I show these regional temperature maps that with a southerly to southeasterly component to the wind, that's a downsloping wind direction into Erie. There's pretty hilly terrain just to the east and southeast of Erie, and so when the wind direction comes down off that hilly terrain, the air compresses and warms, and you get some pretty impressive numbers. So 87 up by the lake this afternoon after staying in the 60s with a lake breeze up there yesterday. Before we get to today's weather and, of course, the future, I want to talk briefly about last evening. We had an isolated thunderstorm in Lawrence County that died late yesterday afternoon. Well, it put down a little, what we call an outflow boundary, a little mini cold front, a little rain-cooled air pool that drifted off to the west into our Ohio counties and kicked up some fairly decent thunderstorms for a time, especially in western and west central Mahoning County last evening. Now, these are all official rain gauges that are maintained by individuals across the area that can upload this data to the internet. Therefore, we have access to it in our graphics. You'll notice there's not much showing on these rain gauges, but in areas that do not have a rain gauge, such as out towards Ellsworth along 224, radar estimates here of an inch or so worth of rain last evening with those nearly stationary thunderstorms that produced very vivid lightning. Got some nice pictures sent in last evening of the lightning from that storm. All right, let's talk about the future. And we're talking about 3 years from now. 3 years from today is something very, very cool and significant, and we're really hoping the weather cooperates. 3 years from today is the total solar eclipse in which the path of totality will track over much of northern Ohio. Now, if you remember back in the summer of 2017, on August 21st, we had a total solar eclipse in the U.S., but the path of totality is well off to our south. We had a partial eclipse around here. It was cool, but there's a big, big difference between just kind of a cool partial eclipse and being in the true path of totality. There's an enormous difference between those two things. This time, the path of totality will track up through Arkansas, southeastern Missouri, southern Illinois, central and southern Indiana, western Ohio, northern Ohio, and then up into parts of northern New England. Now, closer to home, it'll be important here. There's going to be a big difference in the experience you get from this 3 years from today in, say, between Lisbon and Kinsman. There'll be a world difference between those two locations in what you experience. It'll be a partial eclipse in Columbiana County, areas mostly south of Youngstown in Lawrence and Mahoning counties, but as you go off to the north, especially to Trumbull and northwestern Mercer, and then especially up closer to Cleveland, you will be in the path of totality, and if the weather cooperates, this will be a sight to see. Those who have been lucky enough to witness a total solar eclipse, a lot of those people have described it as kind of a life-changing experience. It is really something. You can see stars and planets and the ring around the sun when you're in the path of totality, just stuff you can't see when you're just in the zone that gets the partial eclipse. That's 3 years from today. This will be a huge story here locally, and of course we're going to have it covered as we get a little bit closer to that 3 years from today. It seems like a long way off, but it's been 3.5 years now since the summer of 2017 in which we had the partial eclipse. We'll have a partial solar eclipse this summer, but it's we got to keep our expectations in check with that. It's partial. It's right at daybreak. It's like at 5:45 and 6 o'clock in the morning, something like that. I don't think it's going to be much to look at, but it's in June, and we'll be talking about that as we get closer to summer. All right. As of this recording, 7:07, we have some rain showers around. This line meant a little more business off to our west. This was producing vivid lightning in Carrollton, in Minerva, and Alliance, and New Franklin, and heading up towards Kent and Ravenna. This has weakened as it's come east, but it's still, no doubt, short-circuiting some local baseball games and late afternoon, early evening rounds of golf across parts of our region this evening. Again, there was lightning and thunder with this earlier. That is diminished. There's not much lightning off to our west this evening. A rumble of thunder can't be ruled out this evening, but for the most part, this will just be waves of fairly needed showers across our area for much of the evening and the overnight. There's heavier, gustier storms in southern Ohio. There's been a couple of tornadic storms in parts of Kentucky and northern Tennessee. This is all around an upper level low. that is pinwheeling and weakening across the upper Midwest. Now, you don't want to be underneath that thing because look how much cooler it is underneath that low-pressure system. Instead of the 70s in a place like Des Moines, it's barely out of the 40s. Thankfully, this is not coming this way. This is weakening and heading north, so we're not going to get into that cold or cooler pool around here. We're going to stay way above the average into the next couple of days. Severe weather will wind down tonight, but it'll be ramping up tomorrow well off to our south. No severe weather concerns here, but it'll be a pretty big day, we think, tomorrow into tomorrow night across eastern Texas and parts of the lower Mississippi Valley. Back here at home, waves of showers for the next handful of hours, and I mentioned this is needed rain. You've heard me talk about this lately. Maybe your yard's okay, but there's some dry yards across our area. We've seen a dry spell in March and early April, a little unusual for this time of the year. The weather's been nice. It was a much sunnier than average March, but it came with a lack of rain that has things a little dry. Showers will come and go. Maybe one more shower at daybreak tomorrow, but that should be about it for raindrops on our Friday. All right, as we head into Friday afternoon, I think the sun's going to come out. It's going to be very pleasant. We'll get into the 70s. No records tomorrow, but still almost 20 degrees warmer than the average. We'll be dry into Friday night and Saturday morning. Pretty nice most of the day Saturday. The timing on Saturday's rain is kind of similar to today. For the most part, a really nice day. We might make a run to 80 before the day is through, but showers will become increasingly likely as we head towards dinner time, and showers and some thunderstorms will be possible Saturday evening and overnight. Now, this is going to be a cooler day Sunday. Underneath clouds, maybe a few breaks of sun, and maybe we'll get a couple of showers rotating back in as we go into the afternoon. There's going to be a chill in the air by 4 or 5 o'clock Sunday evening. It's going to be noticeably cooler. We'll probably see our high right around midday on Sunday, getting into the mid-60s, but then it may be 57 by 5 p.m. So, it wasn't that long ago that 57 sounded great, but now 57 sounds kind of chilly since we've been in the 80s the last couple of days. So yeah, definitely a chill in the air if you plan on grilling or doing something outdoors Sunday evening. So again, that's a midday high on Sunday of 64. These 70s over the next couple of days may be our last 70s that we will see for some time. Maybe even until May. Despite the warmth, still way too early to get serious about plants and gardens and things like that. We're in the single digits as far as the odds that we've seen our last freeze, historically speaking, at this point. Once we get into, about 8 or 9 days from now, then there's a 10% chance, historically speaking. And really, it's not advisable around here. We don't live in North Carolina. We live in a zone that we can see freezes into May, as we have in recent history. It's not really advisable around here to get serious until at least the 1st of May, and maybe even Mother's Day. Then your odds of seeing the last freeze are up around 60, 70, 80%, and then you can start to plant things with a little more confidence that things are not going to get too cold. All right, I will be live tonight on 21 News at 11 with fresh radar updates and everything you need to know about Friday and the weekend forecast. Thanks for checking out this evening's weather for Weather Geeks. I'll see you back here on Friday.